This is a Channel 11 News special report.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Claire Casademont. Thank you for being with us for a special edition of 11 News. Hurricane Jerry is now Tropical Storm Jerry. We'll check in with Dr. Neil Frank in just a moment for the latest on the storm. But first, there's grim evidence this morning that Jerry was more than a damaging hurricane. It was a deadly one, too. 2 bodies have been discovered in Galveston, apparent victims of the hurricane that was. 11 News reporter Philip Bruce joins us live from the seawall with details. Philip?
Claire, this hurricane was it was a big surprise to the people of Galveston. It was a lot stronger than they expected, and it was more deadly. Sometime during the night, as the storm was rolling in, 2 people were swept into the surf and drowned. Their bodies were spotted at the 61st Street and the seawall where they had washed ashore. The victims are a little boy, 6 or 7 years old, and his father, who appears to be in his late 20s. The bodies have been identified, but police aren't releasing the names until the relatives are contacted. Now, the speculation is tonight that the man and his son were either walking along the seawall or driving along it when the wind swept them into the Gulf. Police have found no sign of a car, but they're still looking. So far, they are the only known fatalities in a storm that caused all kinds of problems for this island.
A lot of windows blown out on the island, a lot. We had police cars with windows blown out. We've had a lot of reports of that, a lot of broken windows in the houses and some businesses. I think we probably now will know from our assessment teams, which are going to work all night to see how bad it is and where the debris needs to be picked up first.
Some of the worst damage is out on the west end, beyond the seawall. Lots of broken windows there. Also, a portable office building apparently exploded, may have been caused by a tornado. That end of the island is also pretty much without electricity, and flooding is still a problem there as well. Galveston is just now picking up the pieces from Hurricane Jerry, a big surprise, and a lot of people clearly took this storm for granted, thought it wasn't going to be much, and stuck around too late. Throughout the day and even into the evening, when the storm was at its strongest, we saw people out on Seawall Boulevard and even here on the seawall. Reports tonight that as many as 4 cars may have been tossed over the seawall. No one knows that for sure. But as we were out driving around, we saw 3 of them teetering on the edge of the seawall here. As we said, though, no cars found out there, and it will be daybreak before police know what really happened. Claire?
Philip, are police actually making a search for any cars that might have gone in?
At this point, Claire, they pretty much called it off until tomorrow morning. It's so dark and the electricity is just now coming back to most of Galveston. They really can't do much until tomorrow, but they will be out. A rumor has been keeping people busy all night here that a car washed off the seawall somewhere around 45th Street, but police looked there. In fact, we went with them when that report first came in. They saw nothing, neither did we. But they have been getting that report off and on. We have to say, though, that there have been lots of false alarms tonight that have been keeping rescue officials and the police busy. It's only added to the problems here.
Which is actually pretty normal in a situation like this. Thank you, Philip Bruce, reporting live in Galveston. A power blackout is making a bad situation worse for those folks in Galveston. Houston Lighting and Power reports nearly 60,000 homes without electricity at this hour. HL&P crews are busy at work this morning repairing the damage left in the wake of Hurricane Jerry. They say some of the damage is as bad, if not worse, than Hurricane Alicia back in 1983. Let's check in now with our meteorologist, Dr. Neil Frank, for the latest on the storm. Neil, is the worst over?
Well, it's certainly over for this area, you know, Houston and the Galveston area. And this storm is weakening quite rapidly. It's a tropical storm now. Highest winds are probably no more than 50 to 60 miles an hour, but it is still packing a punch. We can see that the center of the storm is up around Cleveland, just to the east of Cleveland. Now, that arc of blinking lights that you see there, the greens and the yellow, that's the area that we're concerned about. It was in the north side of the eye where we had these strong thunderstorms, where we've had all these tornadoes reported. And that band of clouds and thunderstorms is still continuing to move on to the northeast, up into East Texas, and as long as it's holding together there, we've got the threat of some more tornadoes and some heavy rains, maybe 3 or 4 inches of rain.
So the folks in the Cleveland area at this point are the ones getting belted?
That's right, on up into the Cleveland area and on to the northeast now.
Okay, thanks, Neil. So what about damage? Where is it bad? It'll be daylight before officials can make a full assessment, but clearly some communities got it worse than others. Our Dave Feeling joins us now live from east of Baytown. Dave, I know it's hard to see everything in the dark, but how bad is it there?
Well, I tell you, right behind me here is a gas pump. You probably can't tell that anymore. We're at a truck stop in far eastern Harris County, almost into Chambers County, out here along I-10. Behind me is what the hurricane did. It came through here and just snapped off a huge canopy that is over top of those gas pumps that when you come in to fill up your car or truck, about a 50 to 75 foot in size canopy. The hurricane picked it up, ripped it off the foundation, blew it another 50 feet or so. It ripped all the gas pumps off of their stands. They're all scattered around here. They luckily got the electricity off before this became a fire hazard. This all happened about an hour and a half ago. Now, Shelley Strokus is a clerk here, and she was here when all this happened.
Well, it got real still, and then the wind started picking up, and then it rained, and the lights went out, and then everything just started blowing everywhere, signs and stuff.
And that's when the... Now, luckily, no one was injured in all of this. We also understand that up Route 146 that runs north of here off of I-10 up through the eastern part of Harris County, they say there are a lot of phone poles, electrical lines down in that area. Again, we don't think there are any injuries. The police at least have not told us that there are any, but certainly a lot of structural damage like this behind me. Back to you, Claire.
Dave Failing reporting live east of Baytown. As we saw, gas pumps ripped up there and a canopy ripped up. Bad situation, and the Cleveland area still getting belted at this point. Well, hurricane force winds aren't the only problem that affected East Harris County Sunday night. Low-lying areas like Baytown are always prone to flooding. Our reporter Nancy Holland joins us now live from a shelter in Baytown. Nancy, I guess many folks decided to spend the night there rather than risk the rising water.
Quite a few folks decided to spend the night in the shelter. Actually, we have moved locations. Earlier, we told you about a tornado that had actually touched down in Baytown, and we have moved to that site, and I think you can see the evidence behind me, a window that is shattered. And a few minutes ago, police came by and told us that there were some people in various areas around Baytown where the glass broke and who were injured by flying glass, but certainly nothing as serious as those people in Galveston. Right now, it has stopped raining here in Baytown, and it's a lot better than it was just a few hours ago. The rain in Baytown began falling in sheets about 9:30. Winds drove the water and sent anything not tied down crashing. The storm caught a number of people unprepared, and they tried a last-minute run for storm supplies.
This is my first hurricane.
What do you think?
I don't like it. Luckily, I've been here all my life in Houston, but every time winds came, I've been somewhere else.
But it was too late, and the storm was already on top of them. The Red Cross opened a shelter, but there were only a few takers. Most remembered past storms.
It was getting awfully windy, and I didn't want to get caught in it like we did before. Last storm was kind of rough.
But really, it has not been too rough for Baytown this time. We have seen some signs of damage. There are some street lights that are dangling. There is a building in something called Old Baytown on Market Street that is halfway out in the road, kind of tumbled down. But what we have seen is property damage more than damage to people. So Baytown really did get off pretty lucky. Claire?
I guess the consensus is it really could have been worse. Thanks, Nancy Holland. We'll find out what we can expect for the rest of the morning and get the local forecast from Dr. Neil Frank as this 11 News special report continues. Stay with us.
God's got something to tell you. I'm Pastor Harold W. Wilcox of the Greater Progressive Tabernacle Baptist Church right here in Houston on Green River Drive at Mesa Road. We are restoring God's creation through the Bread of Love Outreach Ministry. We're reaching out.
Potato Clock, we can see some of the bands on the leading edge of that tropical storm just coming into view of the Galveston radar. Now, the storm tried to strengthen on Saturday, but we had a very strong current of wind in the upper part of the atmosphere, and every time you'd get a burst of energy, why this strong band of winds would pick that energy and the heat up and carry it away, and it just never made it. So it looked like it was going to stay a tropical storm headed towards Louisiana. But as we put the satellite or the radar pictures now in motion, by Sunday morning, look at this, we begin to see the rain bands wrap around the center here. The aircraft started flying into it and says, man, you got a hurricane, and look how this gets very tight. Now what happens is it was pulling the arms in like the ice skater, spinning faster, and that's exactly what we had. Now we've put a little pause in the action here at about 7:30 last night because that's when the eye was over the western end of Galveston Island. We had reports from Jamaica Beach of being in the calm from about 7:15 to 7:45. Now watch this little band of clouds just to the north of the eye, because it's this band that caused all the tornadoes as the storm continues to move towards the north, right up Galveston Bay. and now right up literally 59. The center is just to the east of Cleveland at the present time. Here's that band of clouds that we're worrying about. We still have the possibility of maybe getting a tornado with this system as it moves on to the northeast, and heavy rains. Now, one of the rules that I use is take the speed of motion, it's about 15 now, divide it into 100, and that gives you a good clue of what the strongest rain is going to be. And if you do that, you're going to see rainfall amounts of about 6 inches. Now, you can see the winds over the local area, well defined that center. The center is actually a little north of this map, but we got west winds here and south winds, still 29, gusting to 39 down on the island. Hey, we're watching a front. Temperatures today in the Dakotas were in the 40s. Here's the front. Over in Chicago this afternoon, they had temperatures in the low 80s, but boy, is that going to turn around as Jerry moves on to the northeast now, up along that front, and we think that front's going to come on through this area on Thursday, and by the end of the week, it's going to feel much different than it did all the last week when we had temperatures of 90. Now, our forecast tonight is still kind of a warm one. We're going to have overnight lows of about 70 degrees, a lot of clouds, still a 50% chance, I think, of getting some lingering showers yet tomorrow. And I think we're going to see more clouds and sunshine tomorrow with temperatures in the 80s. And as we move on to the end of the week, how about some 70s by the time we get to the end of the week? Not bad.
We deserve some nice weather.
Right.
Thanks, Neil. Well, we're going to say goodnight for now, but we hope that you will join us for a special edition of AM Houston beginning at 6 a.m. We'll have a complete report on Hurricane Jerry and the damage left in its wake. For all of us here at 11 News, I'm Claire Castledemup. Thanks for being with us.